In an unprecedented move that signifies a growing divide within the United States political landscape, the Senate is poised to cast a pivotal vote on a measure that could potentially freeze aid to Israel. The proposal brought forward by Senator Bernie Sanders calls for a comprehensive report to evaluate whether Israel has engaged in human rights violations during its conduct of war. The measure stands on a precarious threshold, with the odds suggesting it has a slim chance of passage. However, its very presence on the voting schedule has ignited a fervent discourse among lawmakers, signaling a seismic shift in what has historically been resolute bipartisan support for Israel within the U.S. government. The aid in question is part of a substantial financial package that the United States provides Israel annually, which is primarily earmarked for military assistance. This support has been justified under the auspices of ensuring the security and stability of a key ally in the Middle East, a region rife with geopolitical tensions. The notion of conditioning or reassessing this aid could have far-reaching implications for the diplomatic ties between the two nations. Senator Sanders, a long-standing advocate for human rights, has called into question the accountability of Israel in its military engagements, particularly those with the Palestinians. With a call for increased scrutiny, the measure demands a thorough investigation into Israel's adherence to international human rights standards. The reaction to this motion demonstrates a palpable shift within the Democratic Party, reflecting the views of its more progressive wing. This faction has been vocal in advocating for a foreign policy that aligns with international human rights norms and questions the carte blanche nature of support for foreign governments. Critics of the measure argue that it could undermine Israel's ability to defend itself and might embolden adversaries in the region. They maintain that the alliance with Israel is fundamental to U.S. interests in the Middle East and that its security is non-negotiable. Nevertheless, the initiative sheds light on the increasingly nuanced debate over the United States' role on the global stage, especially in terms of its relationships with other nations. The proposition to potentially freeze aid to Israel as a way of ensuring accountability for human rights is indicative of a broader conversation about the ethical considerations of foreign assistance. As the Senate prepares to cast its vote, the outcome, regardless of its direction, is set to send ripples through the corridors of power in Washington, reverberating across the diplomatic sphere. This bold move by Senator Sanders and like-minded Democrats challenges the established norms of U.S. foreign policy, marking a pivotal moment that could redefine the future of U.S.-Israeli relations. The implications of this vote, even if symbolic in its outcome, signifies an emerging awareness and assertiveness within certain segments of the U.S. political establishment in reevaluating long-standing alliances. By placing human rights at the forefront of international relations discourse, the United States signals a potential shift towards a more conditional and conscientious foreign aid strategy. This news is relevant today as it touches upon the ethical dimension of international politics and the ever-evolving dynamics of U.S. foreign policy in a world that increasingly values global human rights and accountability.